Planet Zoo console players so far have had access to a total of 10 DLC packs, and on December 3rd, 2 more packs will come to console, them being the Arctic Pack and the Conservation Pack. In this video, we'll be looking over everything in both of the packs, including all 9 animals, all 350 plus scenery pieces, and I'll be giving my own personal thoughts on both packs to see if I can help sway your opinions on getting them, or not getting them. So let's start with the Arctic Pack. This pack comes with 4 habitat animals and no exhibit animal. Those 4 habitat animals are the iconic polar bear, the majestic reindeer, the resilient Dall sheep, and the cunning Arctic wolf. The animals in this pack, talking quality-wise, aren't a major improvement from the base game animals, since this pack came out literally right behind it, like right behind the base game launch, literally a month after in December of 2019. The models aren't bad by any means, however they aren't very good looking when compared to more recent animals from recent DLCs. For the animal choices though, I think it's a pretty decent roster. The polar bear and reindeer are pretty essential to have in a pack like this, or in a zoo in general, and while I wouldn't consider a classic in zoos, the Dall sheep is also a really good pick, as it's pretty useful when building tundra or mountainous kind of sections. Only one that really doesn't do it for me is the Arctic wolf. Seeing as we got the timber wolf a month prior, it didn't feel like needed that much, and it still doesn't to me. I would have preferred seeing something like a muskox, the walrus, or even pushing the Arctic fox up to be in this pack instead of the North America pack, freeing a slot there for maybe something like the black bear. Overall, for the animals, it's a decent pack. I mean, you already lose an exhibit animal, and the Arctic wolf is kinda useless to me, at least, but you do get 2 big zoo animals, being the bear and the reindeer, which are pretty essential to zoo collections across the planet. Moving on to the pieces in this pack, I really can't say too many good things here either. The construction pieces in this pack have a general theme of Christmas or holiday style, which can be useful if you want to build zoos more in the winter setting. However, in general, if you're building in like a more modern style, the pieces aren't the most useful, at least to me, as a realistic modern city style theme is what I try to build in for most of my my Planet Zoo time. I will say that the gridded set specifically in this pack can be useful if you were trying to build a Viking style zoo, or like a medieval kind of older style zoo, I guess, because some of the pieces like the wall set and the beams do fit that theme nicely. However, another downgrade about that though is that a lot of the pieces from this entire pack, like that same wall set and beam, are not flexicolor, meaning you have to use the pieces with the colors they have, which aren't bad. I think they come in like a pretty like toned down brown, which is decently usable, but you can't change the color. You have to stick with the colors that are currently with the piece, which is unfortunate, especially considering all the other beams from later packs, like the Conservation Pack, which we're going to talk about soon, are flexicolor, which means you can have any color you want to them, so that is a bit of a downgrade. So we've gone through each individual aspect of the pack. Let's try to bring it all together. Is the Arctic Pack any good? In my opinion, not really. And I might be a bit biased here because I don't really build for tundra animals that often, but I think the main thing that carries the pack in general is the fact that it has 2 very iconic zoo animals, being the bear and the reindeer, and everything else in the pack, aside from a couple sets of pieces, isn't really too great. Like I said, the Dall sheep is a nice oddball. The Arctic wolf isn't really my thing, but it could be yours if you are interested in that. A lot of the pieces aren't useful though. A few things are, like the Christmas trees obviously and stuff like that, but it's just not a good combination of stuff compared to what you do get that I think is useful. If you really want the polar bear in your zoo, then go for it, buy the pack, or the reindeer, I guess. But if you don't really want any of the animals and they're not screaming out to you, or this kind of style of architecture, I would suggest perhaps skipping this one and moving straight to our next one, which is a lot more promising, which is the Conservation Pack, a DLC that many consider one of the best out of all 19 packs for the game. Quite a title to live up for, so let's take a look at what it comes with and see if that actually stands true. The pack comes with 5 animals, 4 habitat and 1 exhibit. The animals include the stunning Przewalski's horse, the elusive Amur leopard, high-climbing Siamang, the legendary Scimitar horned oryx, and the iconic axolotl in the exhibit box. I personally love all these animals and find them super useful. Building for the gibbons is so fun, and ungulates like the horse and the Scimitar oryx have such beautiful models. The Amur leopard also, which while the new African leopard does look a bit better, and it is in the base game so you don't need to pay for it, the Amur leopard still is a more common species in zoos and is still a very good addition to any park. As far as the axolotl goes, I don't really use exhibit animals all that much, but the axolotl does seem like an iconic name or one of the more key animals to have in the exhibit market, so I would say it is a really good addition to the game. The quality of the animals are pretty good, definitely better than ones in the base game, but also not extremely over the top like the 2023 pack, seeing as this pack came out the year before, in 2022 I believe. The Siamang and Przewalski's horse specifically are ones that look very good in terms of fur and model design. The Siamang swinging and the brachiation looks amazing, and it was actually the first animal to have this kind of brachiation behavior, we did get the Largibbon later on, which has a more in-depth climbing system, but that in no way shames the Siamang's behaviors with climbing, because that also is very impressive if you just watch them swing around the bars. Overall, I really can't give this pack any negatives regarding its animals. I mean, in my 60-second review, which I did a while back, I mentioned that it had 2 ungulates, which was kind of a negative, but honestly looking at it now, the orcs and the horse are so different from each other that it shouldn't really matter. I obviously would have liked this to be an animal pack, so we could have gotten more endangered animals. I know some people are suggesting getting an endangered animal pack. I personally don't see that happening, but who knows. But based on what we got in this itself, I can't be mad at what we would have gotten or could have gotten. I have to judge what we actually got, and what we actually got, animal-wise, is pretty good. So moving on to the pieces of the conservation pack, this pack has a lot of strong sets, so let's look into it. First off, one of the best sets in the pack that a lot of people love is the backstage props, which includes buckets, bins, boxes, brooms, rakes, plant pots, watering cans, so much stuff to use in backstage areas, which I personally use a lot in almost all of my builds. If you are someone who wants to go into the more realistic side of building like myself, I highly recommend picking up this pack just for the set alone. Also, speaking of which, if you are interested in realistic building and you're looking for inspiration, check out my channel and subscribe, because we do that's basically the only style we do. Anyway, moving on from that, there are a couple other sets that are also extremely useful, like for example the FlexiColor gutter set or the air ventilation pipe set, which is a set of rectangular metal pipes that are super useful for creating realistic buildings. I would say that those 3 sets are the most useful ones out of the construction pieces, the backstage stuff and the 2 pipe kind of sets. As far as the other pieces go in the construction pieces of this pack, there are a few other ones like the insect garden, the lamps, or the 3D printed wall set, but I personally don't really find myself using these kind of things as much, so I can't say that they are useful or that good. They may be good for depending on what you plan to build for or what you plan to use, but for me personally, I don't use this kind of stuff often. I mostly use the backstage stuff and the pipes. What I can say is good, though, is the foliage in this pack, specifically all the different types of grasses and flowers. The pack comes with an assortment of 5 to 6 styles of grasses and flowers. For example, you have poppies, yellow daisies, sunflowers, and one that I often use, the Yorkshire foggrass. Most of these flowers and grasses are useful when creating big open fields for ungulates like buffaloes or antelopes, so they are super useful. I don't personally use the 2 trees that are in this pack. They do look decent, so I would recommend maybe taking a look at them and checking them out, but I don't really use them currently, like when in most of my builds. Like most packs at this age, the pack doesn't have a new rock set, unfortunately, so it's just the foliage. However, the foliage again is pretty useful, if I would say so. But overall, for the pieces, it's a mixed bag. The foliage and the backstage stuff is incredibly useful, but there's also some stuff that isn't so useful, to me at least, like the wall set, so it's really up to you and your preference. So what are my overall thoughts on the conservation pack? Well, it is definitely one of the better packs in general. Comes with an outstanding animal roster, something I can't say about more recent packs. And a lot of the pieces alongside that are really useful in everyday modern style, which I feel is what most players like to build in. So there you go, that's my thoughts on both the Arctic and conservation packs. Hopefully I was able to help you decide if you want to check out one or both of the packs. I tried to be as concise as I could. Let me know if I can make this even shorter going forward, if this was too long or anything like that. We'll be doing more console bundle reviews going forward as they get announced, and we also do a lot of realistic builds on PC every week. So if that sounds interesting to you, hit that subscribe button to help the channel and so you never miss a video. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys.